And then Rob leads us in the third step prayer.
I certainly will. On page 63 of your big book, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rob. We are on page 17. There is a solution. A couple of things that I'll add just before we get started here. AA has a common problem and a common solution, and this is kind of what we're going to be looking at today. The other part of this is that there is a solution. So we're not talking about multiple solutions here, just the one that is outlined in this book, and we'll be covering it obviously in detail. The other thing is that I would add to this is that one of the things that it doesn't say is that rest and nutrition is also important here with regard to a mix of things that contribute to our sobriety and our overall recovery over time. So exercise, rest, and nutrition are all critical elements that actually help us to be more successful with regard to what we're doing. So, all right, Rob, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Rob Kay, and I am a recovered alcoholic, and we're on page 17, starting chapter 2. There is a solution. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem.
Yeah, so this is a great first sentence, well, a couple of sentences. The thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill, nearly all have recovered. And this is one of the first times that we're going to see this word recovered, or one of the times that we're going to see this word recovered. And there's always been the discussion as to whether you're actually recovered from alcoholism or not. I will tell you that Rob and Bill and I, with regard to this particular Big Book study, all subscribe to the fact that you actually do recover from alcoholism, even though you're always going to be an alcoholic. The chances of messing up are always around the corner. But the thing is just like a cold, you could always get a cold. You're susceptible to it, but you do recover from a cold. The same thing is true for alcoholism. You recover from alcoholism, even though you could be still afflicted by it as an alcoholic. And just kind of do that as a clarification. They have all solved the drink problem. Okay, so it doesn't say that we've solved the human condition. It does say that we've solved the drink problem, and we'll go on to see what else they have to say. Rob?
Yeah, and I just want to mention about the title. There is a solution. It doesn't say there are solutions. It says there is a. They know of one solution that has worked for all of these people. Will it work for you? Well, that's what we're going to find out. If you're willing to do what they did, you should get the same results they did. So there, you know what? People can have, holistic ideas, religious ideas, crystals, you name it, faith healers, acupuncture. These things might work for some people. This is what the first 100 knew worked for them. We are average Americans. All sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. We are people who normally would not mix, but there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. We are like the passengers of a great liner at the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel, from steerage to captain's table. Unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy in escape from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us, but that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined.
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, average Americans is a big deal for Bill and Dr. Bob for us to actually welcome all walks of life. It was part of
I'll bring
reason,
everyone.
it was part of the reason why um, they split from the Oxford group. The Oxford group was more of an upper crust or upper level socioeconomic type of program, whereas for AA, it is all walks of life, and that's important to the program itself. And on top of that, they go on to kind of look at this political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. Um, it certainly does cover the mix. That even though they are saying that we would commonly not mix together in a normal setting, we do so. And they give us the example of a shipwreck, and certainly that would be something that would promote people of all walks of life actually bonding over something together. Although alcoholism is a lifelong kind of journey, and it is something that we have the recovery of it takes the rest of our lives, and that in and of itself binds us together. So it's kind of neat. I like the idea that it's all walks of life. I think the other thing that they should say in here is nationalities. Obviously, we're in a mix today of people from different countries, and that I think makes this program that much more rich. Rob?
Yeah, when people get rescued, from a shipwreck, they are rescued. They put on the ship, given a blanket to put around themselves to get warm, given probably a cup of coffee or hot tea for Chuck, and while the sailors go and try to rescue other people. The difference with us in AA, we are the people that help the others that are still drowning in the water. We help them. And that is the most important part about this is that, okay, when we get rescued, now we become the rescuers and help other people. And unless we're willing to do that, this program is not going to work. So remember that. We have to go and help others. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
Absolutely. It's one solution. It is the solution, a solution. That's what we've always talked about here. Common solution. It doesn't matter how you say it. It's just that this is something that they did. If we follow, just like Rob said, we will experience a similar outcome, and it is something that we all can agree upon. And do together. And that's what makes this such a powerful program. Rob?
It is. And as I say, we are people that would not normally mix, and so true. You know, people from all over the world. We got Scotland here. We have Seattle. We have, New Jersey, Maryland, Toronto, all over the place. Zoom has been an incredible boon. I have learned so much in the last 5 years since COVID hit because I've been able to go to different meetings to listen to other people, to get into the big book, to have people teach it to me. It's a tragedy COVID was, but you know what? It's opened up a whole new world for me. people I get to meet and to, deal with. We're at the top of page 18, everybody. An illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it an illness, involves those about us in a way other human sicknesses can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him, and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it there goes annihilation of all the things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list.
Absolutely. And it is something that is very true here with regard to the fact that most people think that there's, in most cases, that getting cancer, you have no control over that. And so people do actually feel sorry for that person that, and their willingness to be helpful is much stronger. The idea here is with this though, is that it touches everyone because the alcoholic usually lashes out or removes themselves from the lives of others. They find themselves not going to work, being alone and bitter. I don't know many alcoholics that have hit their bottom that haven't been that have been in it's a very unpleasant place to be, and the people around them have been suffering long and hard for a long time because of it. And it is true. There's a lot of people that are angry. There's a lot of people that are sad. There's a lot of people that feel resentful, and that is something that is much different than we find with other illnesses that people get. Rob?
Yeah, a lot of people, normal drinkers, think that people who drink too much, alcoholics, have no willpower, that they could stop if they wanted to. And this is the misconception, is that, you know what? Hey, I wish I could have stopped when I wanted to, but I couldn't. Okay. And this one paragraph that we just read, we're on the top, Martha, we're on the top of page 18 right now. And, just in this one paragraph, they mentioned illness 3 times. Okay. Because normal drinkers don't think it's an illness. They think it is just a moral problem. Is that you'd quit if you wanted to. You didn't have to have that extra drink. Did you really need that? No. Frothy emotional appeal they talked about earlier in the book. But we who are afflicted with alcoholism know. I didn't want that next drink, or the drink after that, or the drink after that. I just couldn't stop myself. But normal drinkers don't look at it like that. They look at it that, you know what? Hey, I'm a normal drinker. I have a couple of drinks, I get a little giddy, I stop. I get a little lightheaded, I stop. We can't do that. But normal drinkers don't see that. So their perception is that, you're just crazy, basically. And you know what? Bill Wilson, when he went out on that insidious, Armistice Day, where he spoke to the guy on the bus and said, you know what? I can't drink. Once I take a drink, I'm off to the races and I'm gone for days. The bartender comes by, offers a free drink for Armistice Day. Bill takes it. The guy goes, "Are you crazy?" And Bill goes, "I certainly am." And these are things, we drink when we don't want to, and normal drinkers don't understand that. And why should they? They can stop anytime they want. We're in the second paragraph on page 18, everybody. We hope this volume will inform and comfort those who are or who may be affected. There are many. Highly competent psychiatrists who have dealt with us have found it sometimes impossible to persuade an alcoholic to discuss this situation without reserve. Strangely enough, wives, parents, and intimate friends usually find us even more unapproachable than do the psychiatrists and the doctors.
Yeah, and so gradations of willingness to talk about our problems and the issues that we're that we find challenging. This is going in the direction of, well, another alcoholic can usually win over a newcomer fairly easily over within a few hours. It's uncanny how that happens. With the idea here is that, we don't share with our wives, parents, or intimate friends as much as we would with another alcoholic. We also don't share with our psychiatrists, psychologists, and other doctors, again, quite as much as we would with another alcoholic. So it's just basically saying, and again, just gradations of sharing and willingness to do so, kind of as a less willing for wives, parents, and intimate friends, a little bit more maybe with the psychiatrists and other doctors. And then obviously it should be that, and we find this time and again, a fully open book when it comes to sharing with another alcoholic. Rob?
Yeah, Dr. Bob, he was going to the Oxford group for about 2 years before he met Bill. The Oxford group didn't do any good for Dr. Bob. He went there and he still drank either on the way home or, he was drunk when he got there. But it wasn't until Dr. Bob was able to sit down with Bill Wilson, a rum hound from New York, was he able to get through to Dr. Bob. All these other people have tried. Now, Bill from New Jersey tells a great story about a man falling into a hole. Hopefully he'll tell it at the end. And the whole idea is that, psychiatrists, doctors, lawyers, all these people try to help. They can't get through to us. It's one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic that is able to get through. When I see Chuck change his whole life around, okay, that gives me hope that maybe I can do what he did. Maybe. If I do what Chuck did. Am I willing to do that? Have I hit bottom? Am I willing to make changes in my life the way that Chuck did? One alcoholic talking to another. Now we're going to get into the squiggly writing. And I mentioned this before the meeting, and I'm going to mention it again. Last week I said that they did not pay extra for the squiggly writing. I was questioned about that, and I talked to an awful lot of other history people, etc., and to enough that know better. Nobody has proof that they paid more for it, or they didn't pay more, or they didn't have to pay for it. So it is speculation until we can find an invoice. And I'm hoping Martha has an invoice for it so that she can help me out here. But we don't know whether they really did. People have opinions on it, which is great, but so far we don't have any proof. So I don't want to spread false information. So I do apologize to anybody that, got that information and ran with it. So we're going to read some squiggly writing. We don't know whether they paid more for it or not, but it's important because they put it in squiggly writing.
Yes, it is.
But the ex-problem drinker who has found this solution, who is properly armed with facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. Until such an understanding is reached, little or nothing can be accomplished.
Yep, and we've already been alluding to this, and that is that the two alcoholics together can actually help each other out more so than if it was one alcoholic with somebody that was a non-alcoholic. In addition to that, it's also saying that until such an understanding is reached, meaning that even with the two alcoholics, you still have to gain the trust and confidence of the other alcoholic as you're going along, and nothing can be accomplished. And usually the person that's on the receiving end is still very, very susceptible to drinking, and So it's really important that the two get together and spend the kind of time that they need to spend together and talk about the appropriate things. We're here to talk about our alcoholism and trials and tribulations that go with that, and ultimately how this program helped solve the drink problem. Rob?
Yeah, I want to go over to page 180 right now in Dr. Bob's Nightmare. And I just want to read a very short thing. It's in approximately, we'll say, the middle of the page, and it's in a couple of words. And this is Dr. Bob talking. Of far more importance was the fact that he was the first living human with whom I had ever talked who knew what he was talking about in regard to alcoholism from actual experience. In other words, he talked my language. He knew all the answers, and certainly not because he had picked them up in his reading. And that's Dr. Bob talking about Bill. And that's why one alcoholic can get through to another. They understand. You know, when Bill first met Bob, he says, I bet you could really use a drink right now, couldn't you? He knew Dr. Bob was hurting and wanted a drink. Okay, he understood. Just like I understand what some of you people have gone through, and you know what other people are going through. We use that information to help others. Remember, we can't stop people from drinking. All we can do is show them what we did. And if they want what we have, they will go through it. Remember, it is between them and God whether they drink again. It's not you. That same man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty, that he obviously knows what he is talking about, that his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect that he is a man with a real answer, that he has no attitude of holier than thou, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful, that there are no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. After such an approach, many take up their beds and walk again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob. There is really talking about the one alcoholic talking to another, the power that goes with that, and the understanding that there's not a person on one side lecturing the other, that they're not requiring fees or money in order to get better, and they're not there to be vindictive and otherwise. There is basically the sincere desire to help, and that this approach that we're talking about, and again we'll get into more detail, obviously causes people to recover, become sober, and have lifelong recovery. And that is, again, the power of one alcoholic talking to another. Rob?
Yeah, I put some stuff in the chat. If you're used to being at this meeting, you know that there's an awful lot of stuff get put in the chat. I don't know if everybody can keep up to it. But I put in the conditions to look for in a sponsor, which is the 10 things. That the man who is making the approach has had the same difficulty. 2, that he obviously knows what he is talking about. 3, that his whole deportment shouts at the new prospect. 4, that he is a man with the real answer. 5, that he has no attitude of holier than thou. 6, nothing whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful. 7, that there are no fees to pay. 8, no axes to grind. 9, no people to please. And 10, no lectures to endure. And one of the things that I want to really point out is number 6, nothing that whatever except the sincere desire to be helpful. And the reason I say that is because some sponsors want to put themselves on a pedestal, and they want the sponsee to become reliant on them. Remember, we point them into the direction. We want them to have a spiritual experience and come to rely on who? God, not the sponsor. Okay. And sometimes, people get a little shook up on that. So, they get a little confused, where the sponsor thinks they're God. Dr. Bob had a great thing on it, and I'll put that in the chat in a little bit for everybody. And we're on the top of page 19, everybody. None of us make the sole vocation of this work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. We feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principle lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. All of us spend much of our spare time in the sort of effort which we are going to describe. A few are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work.
Yeah, so we're kind of working in regards to the discussion here. None of us makes it a sole vocation of this work. I think that when we talk about vocation, there are people out there that I think that are fortunate in that they have chosen this as a way of life, and they spend basically, like they said here, most of their time dedicated towards helping others and helping people to become sober and recover. Now, the important piece here is the demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. So we're also talking about not just exercising and or using these principles in just the recovery of our alcoholism, but it extends beyond that in our everyday life activities, regardless of whether they are at home or at work. The idea here is that the more that you apply these principles to your life, the stronger your recovery is going to be, and the better person you are going to become. And after having gone through and spent the years that we spent in the debacles and problems, this is certainly an important place to be, and a certainly an important place to strive for going forward. Bob?
Yeah, one of the big lines that really jumps out at me, and I highlighted, we feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. Remember, alcohol was our solution. Things aren't going well, have a drink. Things are going really well, got a promotion at work, have a drink. Hey, so-and-so had a baby, let's have a drink. All day, any reason to have a drink. Good day, bad day, it's raining outside, it's sunny outside. There's a little bit of wind blowing. Whatever. That was our solution. I want to forget what went on today. I had a fight with my wife. I just got to get away from this. Okay? That was our solution. Okay? So we can take, drinking out of our lives, but we have to replace it with something. Okay? And that is and this is why it's a spiritual program. We replace it by caring about other people and worrying about their needs, their wants. Anytime Bill was feeling resentful and had self-pity, what did he do? He went to the hospital to help somebody else. Why? Because it took him out of himself. He stopped thinking about himself for a little bit of time. And that's what this is all about. We have to change. Well, what are we changing? Dr. Young tried to get through to Roland Hazard and said to Roland, being religious is good, but it doesn't spell the necessary change. Dr. Bob was in the Oxford group. That didn't spell the change that needed to happen. It's okay to go once a week to church, but if you are being the same person you are Monday to Saturday and not helping other people, you haven't changed. So this is what is so, and a much more important demonstration in our principle lies in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. How many times have you heard of people that they come to meetings and they're the nice person, they're smiling, happy, and everything like that? Then they go home and they start kicking the dog or doing mean things to their wife or family. We have to change. Okay, we have to care about other people. And I mean deeply care about other people and worry about their welfare. How can I be of service today? Thy will, not my will, be done. If we keep on the way we're going, there is little doubt that much good will result. But the surface of the problem would hardly be scratched. Those of us who live in large cities are overcome by the reflection that close by hundreds are dropping into oblivion every day. Many could recover if they had the opportunity we have enjoyed. How then shall we present that which has been so freely given us?
And so we are talking about here, if we keep on the way that we are going, there is little doubt that much good will result, meaning that if you stay on this program, you work with others and apply the principles to all your life, good things will result. And on top of that, though, is if you just did the recovery part, as Rob was just talking about, the overall problem would still be there. There are people that are coming, that are realizing that they've got a drink problem every day. They're just everywhere. There's a almost limitless supply of newcomers if we could just find them and get to them. They would recover again here, as they're talking about, if, and that's a big word, they had the opportunity that we have enjoyed. It's upon us to go out and find them. We've sometimes in meetings there's been where they just basically say, here's the people that can sponsor, and it's up to the newcomer to make the introduction. It should be the other way around, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. And part of this is that this solution is going to be outlined in this chapter and shown how we would actually approach and present approach a newcomer and present the program to them. Rob?
And here's one of the great things that I love about this book. On page 19, it says, how then shall we present that which has been so freely given us? Question mark. Do you think they're going to leave us hanging and they're not going to answer that question? No, they're going to answer that question for us. Thank you, Bill Wilson. We have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. Who is we? The first 100 people. We shall bring to the task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with a drinking problem.
Yeah, and when we talk about anyone, and I'm glad that Rob emphasized that, we're not just talking about alcoholics, the real alcoholic, but those that are heavy drinkers that are on the verge of losing control can benefit from this program. Those that are even moderate drinkers that might find themselves on occasion exceeding the limits of what is would be considered normal or appropriate could also benefit from this. So we don't really talk about that much. We really focus on the real alcoholic and those that are deeply affected by alcohol. But the moderate and heavy drinkers also could benefit from this as well. The other thing that Rob emphasized is, in fact, we're talking about the first 100, and that is the problem that they had and the solution that they applied, which is what we're reviewing and learning. And then this is the approach that we're going to be learning about and applying. Rob?
Of necessity, there will have to be discussion of matters medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We're aware that these matters are, from their very nature, controversial. Nothing would please us so much as to write a book which would contain no basis for contention or argument. We shall do our utmost to achieve that ideal. Most of us sense that real tolerance of other people's shortcomings and viewpoints, and a respect for their opinions, are attitudes which make us more useful to others. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend upon our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs.
Yeah, Rob, I kind of feel like Gebby helped write this paragraph with regard to the idea of not having, the matters of medical, psychiatric, social, and religious. We know that those are controversial topics. They certainly are. I don't think that the program is a failure if you don't talk about these things, but I think that it's important to include them as general statements. Medical, for example, there are necessities out there where people do need to get medical care prior to really embracing this program. They may need to get therapy over a given period of time. I worked with a therapist that was an addiction specialist for many years in the beginning of my path to sobriety. And then obviously the religious parts of this are certainly things that we need to at least acknowledge that are there, but not necessarily focus on, because that's not where we are going. The best case scenario would be is that there would be kind of a utopian kind of agreement or understanding with regard to all of this, but obviously there are different viewpoints, and other people's shortcomings do apply, and it's something that we just have to address, but not necessarily dwell on, and move forward. The constant thought of others, it's this idea of helping others. There's going to be a repetitive nature here of talking about going out and helping others is really the crux of the success of recovery, and it's something that we're going to emphasize and apply on several different levels. Rob?
You know, Bill Wilson tried so hard to stay out of controversy. You know, he did everything he could to stay out of it. You know, an AA, you know, strives to stay out of controversy. You know, our traditions, you know, that's an outside issue. Okay, let's not talk about that, because, you know, you have your opinion on certain things. I have my opinion on certain things. You know what? That's an outside issue. That has nothing to do with alcohol. You know, especially when you talk about politics. Politics is so divisive, you know, that people feel strongly one way or the other about this and that, and great for them. But you know what? That has nothing to do with their drinking. So we stay out, because what will happen is that I'll get a resentment to Leo. Leo will get a resentment to me. Then what happens? We're back drinking. We're no better off. It's an outside issue. Keep it outside. You know, we try to stay out of controversy. We don't own anything. You know, and Bill Wilson was great for that. You know, one of his greatest things is that with the doctors, you know, in the 1930s, you know, alcoholism was not considered a disease. That's why Bill came up with malady. You know, you know, and I'm going to read, I'll put this in the chat, but I'm going to read this is Bill speaking in 1960 from silkworth.net. Bill, and this is Bill W. We have never called alcoholism a disease because, technically speaking, it is not a disease entity. For example, there is no such thing as heart disease. Instead, there are many separate heart ailments or combinations of them. It is something like that with alcoholism. Therefore, we did not wish to get in wrong with the medical profession by pronouncing alcoholism a disease entity. Hence, we have always called it an illness or a malady, a far safer term to use. You know, and that's Bill Wilson trying to stay out of controversy. He didn't want to get, you know, he didn't want to publish this book and then have the medical fraternity come down on him saying, you know, this book is garbage because they call it a disease. You know, the medical profession does not see it as a disease. Therefore, this book is no good. So, smart man, you know, considering he's a stock speculator, you know, who wrote this book. Like, to me, it floors me how incredibly intelligent he is. Leo, where do I finish off?
Yep, you're at the very top of page 20, the first paragraph. You may already.
Okay. Thanks, Leo. Top of page 20, everybody. You may already have asked yourself, why is it that all of us became so very ill from drinking? Doubtless, you're curious to discover how and why, in the face of expert opinion to the contrary, we have recovered from a hopeless condition of mind and body. If you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do?
So there's a couple of things he touches on. Already ask yourself why it is that of us become so very ill from drinking. Doubtless you have curious to discover how and why. And I'm sorry, the face of expert opinion to the contrary. This is where people, we're talking about alcoholics that are at their very bottom, that they seem to be hopeless, that the medical community has somewhat given up on them because their remedies are not working. And basically, we're talking about how this particular program, in the face of that type of giving up on a person, that it actually can work. And it is the first time that we talk about mind and body. So we're talking about the malady and the allergy, and we will get into much more detail about both going forward. You ask yourself, what do I have to do? Well, if you're looking at this and you're seeing what we're talking about, that you're in that hopeless category, and that you're looking around saying, well, how did this person who was who was also in this hopeless condition, how did they recover, and what do I have to do to get what they have? And that's really the best place to be at that point in time, when you have got a recovered alcoholic reaching out to you saying, hey, I have a solution, I have a program that you can embrace and get better with, and here it is. So that question, what do I have to do, can be answered, and will be answered obviously in this book, but can be answered by another person of an alcoholic nature. Rob?
Now remember, Ebby came to Bill 2 months sober. Bill didn't go to Ebby. Ebby came to Bill. And why was Bill was astonished to see his drinking buddy, the guy who drank as much as Bill, if not more, looking so incredible. Well, what has come over you? Bill was astounded. There was something inexplicably different about his eyes. Bill saw something. What is it? What have you done? What is different about you? Bill was intrigued. So again, what do I have to do? Question mark. I don't have to answer it. They're going to answer for me. It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. We shall tell you what we have done. Before going into a detailed discussion, it may be well to summarize some points as we see them.
So here we are, and Rob has really emphasized it nicely with regard to the questions out there, and then having to get answers. And in this case, they're going to answer it specifically, what is the program and what can be done. So we're going to see that going forward, and it is going to be a detailed discussion as we unfold in this chapter and beyond. Rob?
Yeah. How many times have people said to us, I can take it or leave it? Why can't he? Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit? That fellow can't handle liquor. Why don't you try beer and wine? Lay off the hard stuff. His willpower must be weak. He could stop if he wanted to. She's such a sweet girl. I should think he'd stop for her sake. The doctor told him that if he ever drank again, it would kill him. But there he is, all lit up again.
Yeah, so getting to this is an approach. It is basically the book kind of being that person that has the experience, and they're essentially trying to relate to you as the newcomer, the person reading this book, and it's connecting. It's creating a bond with the reader at this point, and certainly it's doing it because you may not have heard one of these. You may have heard something similar, or you may have heard multiples of these. But the idea being here is that We're talking about a normal person without the understanding of what it is to be an alcoholic and saying the things that they say. But as an alcoholic, we've heard them, we've winced, and we've repelled from these statements, and obviously we've been frustrated and upset with the idea that we couldn't stop, even though these people were saying, "Why couldn't you?" So just some ideas here. Again, it's connecting with the reader. It's creating that bond. It is essentially where this book starts to mimic the alcoholic reaching out to another. Rob?
Yeah, frothy emotional appeals. He could stop if he wanted to. Oh, if only that was the case. Why don't you drink like a gentleman or quit? Lay off the hard stuff. I remember in Dr. Bob's Nightmare, one of my favorite stories, in that Dr. Bob, he switched to beer, thinking that you can't get drunk on beer. If you drink large enough quantities, yes, you can get drunk on beer. I can attest to that. But the thing is that Dr. Bob also realized that by drinking so much beer, he was getting fat and he felt bloated all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also found out that, after you've had a few beer and you were all smelled up, nobody could tell that you were drinking alcohol too. So he was adding alcohol to his beer consumption. Just a little bit something. We try these different things, and they don't work. Why don't they work? It's because of the allergy. Once we take any alcohol whatsoever into our bodies crave more. So no matter what type of alcohol we drink, our body's going to crave more. Now, these are commonplace observations on drinkers, which we hear all the time. Back of them is a world of ignorance and misunderstanding. We see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different from ours.
Again, we're referring to people that don't understand. They're not alcoholics like we are. They don't have the drink problem like we have. And they are sitting back and they are being touched by the alcoholic. These are people that are experiencing the effects of being around an alcoholic. And the embarrassment, the frustrations, the resentments, the anger, those type of feelings that happen because of it. But we are talking about that, and it's very common for these type of statements, and that again is why we were bringing them up. And it is a misunderstanding. It's something that only alcoholics, I believe, I think that there are some that are non-alcoholics at this point in time that do understand it and embrace the idea that going out and helping others is important. But I think that that's few and far between with regard to the overall numbers of people that are actually going out and helping others. Mostly, I think that we're finding that it's other alcoholics helping other alcoholics. So. Okay, Rob?
Yeah, Leo, the next section is the 3 types of drinkers. I'd like to save that till next week.
Yep.
I'm hoping that we'll give Bill a little bit extra time, and I'm hoping that, Bill, you can tell the whole story. And also your other wisdom that you always impart on us, if you don't mind. I love this story. Hopefully Bill's there. Oh, you're muted, Bill. Now you're unmuted.
Okay. Yep, I'm here. Okay, which story do you want to hear?
The whole. The guy,
okay. The drunk in the hole.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, this is a good chapter, and like you pointed out, it says there is a solution. The book says there is a solution. That means one. That's what we're talking about here. And on page 17, it says that we have a way out on which we can absolutely agree. That's what we're supposed to agree on. The way out. That's the the course of action outlined in this book, the 12 steps. That's what we can agree on. Everything else we don't have to agree on. People in AA have to realize we can disagree with each other, and that's fine. If you want to do step 1 10 times a day, that's fine. If that keeps you sober, rock on, baby. Go right ahead. If you think going to meetings and talking about your stuff is going to keep you sober, if that's working for you, that's fine. If you want to do the steps over and over and over again, then go right ahead. If you just want to carry them to other people, however you do this program, that's between you, your sponsor, and God. Well, whatever works for you, keep on doing it. The only thing we have to agree on is that this 12-step process works. We all have our own ideas and how we do everything, and it's really not important exactly how you do it. What's important is that you do it. And it talks about in here on page 18, the ex-problem drinker, that means a sober alcoholic who has found a solution, who is properly armed with the facts about himself, can generally win the entire confidence of another alcoholic in a few hours. This is like human nature. People that have common interests happen to be able to get along with each other better, whether it's drinking and getting drunk, or whether it's going fishing or playing hockey or golf or tennis or whatever. People that have common interests just happen to be able to connect with each other better. And that's basically what he's talking about here. When somebody's an alcoholic, they can connect with another alcoholic because we have a common interest. We drank the same way and we relate to each other. And that should be common sense, but most people don't realize that. Most people think that if they're a social drinker, they can tell an alcoholic what to do. And it just doesn't work that way because we don't listen to those people. For some reason, their brain works different than ours. They think different than we do. We're not the same. We're all a little bit different. And Rob talked about the malady. Yeah, there's a talk that Bill Wilson gave, and he said the reason he used malady in this book, he didn't want to use the word disease. And if you look throughout this book, the disease is only used on one page, on page 64, and it says spiritual disease. That way it keeps the medical community out of it. If you look up the word malady in the dictionary or Google it, it says malady is another word for disease. And Bill was just trying to stay away from that because he didn't want to get into a controversy. And on the bottom of page 20, it says, we see that these expressions refer to people whose reactions are very different from ours. We are different from other people. We have to understand that. We get a different reaction from alcohol, and not only from alcohol, we react different to other things. We get resentments, we react different to a resentment than a social drinker does. A social drinker gets a resentment, they bellyache about it for 10 minutes and it's gone. We get a resentment, and 20 years later, we're still hunting the person down to get even with them. We are different. Our brains are wired different than social drinkers are. We're not the same thing. We're not the same as other humans. We're our own specific entity. And then the story about about the drunk in the hole, that this kind of explains why that an alcoholic can get through to other alcoholics like nobody else can. There was some construction going on this street, and they dug a big hole in the street, and they put up some of that yellow tape and cones and stuff, and they were going to come back the next day and finish it. During the night, some drunk comes staggering out of a bar, and he wobbles over by where this hole is, and he falls in the hole. And the hole is so deep, he can't get out. So he's trying to get out, he can't get out. And along comes a businessman. The businessman looks in the hole and says, "What happened to you?" He says, "I fell in a hole, I can't get out. Can you help me out?" And the businessman says, "I don't really have any way of getting you out of there, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll throw you down some money. Maybe you can buy a ladder and get yourself out of there." And then the businessman leaves. Then along comes a priest, and the priest looks in the hole and says, "What happened to you, my son?" And the drunk says, "I fell in a hole. Can you get me out of here, Father?" And the priest says, "No, I don't really have any way of getting you out of there, but I'll stay here with you for a while and I'll pray with you." So the priest prays with him for a while, then the priest leaves. Then along comes a doctor, and the doctor looks in the hole and says, "What happened to you, buddy?" And he says, "I fell in a hole and I can't get out. Can you get me out of here, doc?" And the doctor says, "Well, no, I don't have a way of getting you out of the hole, but did you get hurt when you fell in the hole? And the guy says, yeah, I think I sprained my ankle and it hurts a little bit. So the doctor says, here, I'll throw you down a bottle of aspirins. Take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning. And the doctor leaves. Then a psychiatrist comes by, and the psychiatrist looks in the hole and says, what happened to you? And the guy says, I fell in a hole. I can't get out. Can you get me out of here? And the psychiatrist says, no, I can't get you out of there, but I can tell you why you're in that hole. You're stuck in that hole because when you was a little kid, your parents were mean to you. Then the drunk says, look, can you get me out of here or not? And the psychiatrist says, no, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll come back once a week and talk to you for an hour each time. Here's your bill. And the psychiatrist leaves. Then along comes a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He looks down in the hole, and the drunk says, hey, I fell in a hole. And then the sober guy says, yeah, I know exactly what happened. You don't have to tell me. And the drunk says, can you get me out of here? So the sober guy from AA says, all right, move back from the edge. So the drunk moves back from the edge of the hole, and the sober guy jumps in the hole with him. And the drunk says, what are you, crazy? Now we're both stuck in the hole. And the sober guy says, take my hand. I've been here before. I know the way out. We are capable of helping somebody else get out of that hole when nobody else can. The businessmen can. They can have some kind of program in their business for employee assistance. The priests can't. They can pray with us. They can throw holy water on us. The doctors can treat us if we got hurt. The psychiatrists can tell us why we're acting like we're crazy or whatever, but they can't get us out of that hole because they don't know how to help somebody stop drinking. But a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous that went through the same thing that the drunk is going through, we know how to help somebody get out of that hole. We're uniquely qualified to help another alcoholic achieve sobriety because that's what we did. And that's what we know. We don't know everything else in the world, but we know how to stay sober because we went through this program and we can walk somebody else through it. That's why we can help others. And that's why this book says that the ex-problem drinker can get through to another alcoholic like nobody else can because we have something in common. We went through the same thing. Okay, that's pretty much all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share.
Bill, thank you so much. Now, wasn't that story worth waiting for? I love that story. I've heard it a few times, but it makes such perfect sense to me. You know, all these other people that try to come along and try to help, they mean well, but they just can't get through. So thank you, Bill. And Bill's meeting is on Fridays. Information is in the chat. So come on out and visit Bill. Ready for the Serenity Prayer, Leo?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Serenity Prayer, everybody. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Accept the
Courage
things I cannot change.
thing I
Courage
cannot
to change the things I can.
and
And
wisdom
the wisdom
to know the difference.
Thy will be done.